one. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to have all of you all here. And again, as Ms. Mabry stated, my name is Brian DeQuincy Newman, and I have the pleasure of representing all of downtown Columbia on our city council. Now, although they call our positions nonpartisan, I'm a proud member of the Democratic Party, so so it's always a pleasure to be around fellow Democrats and those of you all that are committed to moving our community forward. Now, on behalf of the City of Columbia, again, we want to welcome all of you all here. There's a good bit of folks that I've met here that are not from Columbia, so I'm sure you'll enjoy your time and come to find that the people here are kind, and of course we have a city that's very welcoming to all of our visitors. For that, again, I thank you all for being here. And on a more personal note, again, just to thank you all for your commitment to our party and its contingencies, such as a women's council that's necessary, not only on the local level, but of course to reassure that we can get our president reelected again next year. So thank you all for that. And of course, I would be remiss if we did not draw attention to our very, very special guest that we have here with us, Ms. Archaletta. As you all know, her commitment really exudes what we all need to be doing in our communities, whether it was her work in Denver or working in D.C. on our labor issue or on our labor initiatives, or even her position now to ensure that our president gets reelected. It takes her sort of persistence, diligence, and of course the intellect that she brings forward to make sure that we are headed in the right direction. So we thank her for that. And it's for that reason, if nothing else, that we want to make sure that we honor her for being here. So on behalf of our Mayor, Steve Benjamin, and my colleagues on City Council, we want to make sure that you remember this event and hope that you return and continue to grace us with your presence. So with that, we want to present you with the key to the city.
Oh, goodness.
I don't know how many doors you want to open with it, but we hope that you will keep that and try to open a few and continue to help us build our community as well.
Well, so, thank you very much. Thank you. Congratulations to you. Wow. It's okay. It's all right. Good save. No problem.
Too many cords over here.
Yeah.
All right?
Yep, it's fine. Thanks. I'd like to right now recognize Melissa Watson. Melissa is the second vice chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party and also a member of the DNC. I know she has to go, but we are so grateful that you were able to come this morning. Thank you. I now want to recognize Kyle Watson. Kyle works for the South Carolina Democratic Party, and he has a couple of words to say. Amanda Loveday, what's the word? Amanda Loveday could not be here today, and neither could Dick Harpootlian. Both of them are under the weather. So Kyle graciously agreed to come say hey.
Hey, everyone. I'm sorry you don't get Dick Harpootlian because he is probably the most entertaining man in South Carolina in front of a crowd. He is sick with the flu and a broken foot. Before you feel sorry for him, it's probably good he got the flu because we couldn't keep him off his foot, so hopefully that can mend now. I just want to say one quick thing. I'm doing a lot of coordinating with Lee and the Obama campaign, and they're doing a fantastic job. They have a good staff. The thing we're really trying to focus on is making sure that regardless of whatever Democrats' motivation is, whether they're the type of Democrat that wants to get more Senate and House members in there, get rid of Nikki Haley, whether they're focused on winning congressional seats, or whether they're ready to jump on a bus to go to North Carolina to make sure President Obama gets 4 more years. We want to give them the outlet that they want and use them the best way we can use them. So, and also thank you, Ms. Archaletta, for coming. It's been exciting to be in South Carolina the last couple months. We've had some really important folks coming through. So everybody get serious and get ready to work. And thank you for coming, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Kyle. I'd like to turn the program over to Joyce Dickerson, the Honorable Joyce Dickerson. We are so excited Joyce called me a few months ago and she said, I met Catherine Archaletta at a meeting. I'll let her explain the story. But it's all because of Joyce that we have Ms. Archaletta here, and we all need to I want to publicly thank Joyce. But I want to make sure that everybody knows that Joyce is the reason that we have who we have today. And thank you, Joyce. I really do appreciate it.
Love and hugs to you.
All right.
Well, are you all fired up? And are you ready to go to make sure that Obama gets to be reelected in 2012? Would you like to see more women in the state house? Don't you think women do a better job in the house? Don't you think we clean house better than guys? I think we can do a better job than the guys in the house. And I want to look for some women to put in that house across the street. Now, do I have any volunteers? If not, I'm going to start to recruit. Thank you so very much. I want to tell you it is an esteemed pleasure to see all of you here today. And I want you to know it's a pleasure it's what they say in the South, it's a plum pleasure to be here today. But more importantly, I'm not going to take a lot of time because I want Catherine to have as much time as she can to speak to us today because she has a very important message. Her bio is in the program, as you can see, so I'm not going to read all of that. But I want you to understand that the work that she has done and what she started throughout the state, and for her to be chosen by our esteemed president to head his national campaign, I think is just wonderful. Political campaign, I think is just wonderful, and I think we just need to give her a big hand for the job that she has to do. And I really want to say that one of the things I have done, and as all of you all know, when I lost the election in 2009 and 6, that just made me get mad. So I got mad enough to just keep on working, and Kathy and I got mad enough to reform this club, and we got mad enough that we kept on working. And this is what I try to tell every candidate. This bothers me so much, is that when a candidate loses an election, they drop out of sight. That is really saddening. When you lose that election, you should come back like Margie. Margie has never stopped going around telling us, even though she lost her bid for the Secretary of State, she does not miss an opportunity to go around and to mentor other women, to tell them how it is to run for re-election, how hard it is to raise money, especially when you're an African American. It is just triple hard to raise funds. I just, really. But if you got a big mouth and like me, and you don't mind walking, and you don't mind, like knocking on doors and driving a Ford and say, you're going to vote for me regardless. I don't care whether you're Democrat or Republican. I just need your vote. Because when you call me, you don't say whether, call me to do something. You don't say, Ms. Dickerson, are you Democrat or Republican? You call me and say, I need this done. And I get it done. So I say that to say this is like I am president-elect for the National Foundation of Women Legislators. I was sworn in this past August. And at that meeting, I had the esteemed pleasure to meet Catherine Archaletta. And I tell you what, I sat at a table right there, and she was about right here, and I just watched her. And she said one thing. She said, well, I'm going to give you my telephone number, my address, email, and she gave it all to me. She said, and I will call you back. So I said, I'm going to test her. Little old me, I'm going to test her. So when I got back to South Carolina, I tested her. And guess what? She responded immediately, because she said, I answer my emails 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. I didn't think anybody was up to answer emails but me 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So don't feel strange when you get an email from me 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, because I don't sleep. So I am so privileged today to have the esteemed privilege to introduce Catherine Archaletta. Thank you so very much.
Well, I learned that when Joyce asks, you don't say no.
It wasn't, it's not too hard to learn that. So I learned it in the first 5 minutes. And she did. Actually, she didn't tell you the truth. She actually emailed me while she was sitting in the chair. And so by the time I walked out of the room, I had an email from her. So she's everything that legend says she is. She's a hard worker, and she's absolutely committed to our president. So thank you for your kind words. Sheree, thank you for letting me be here today. It's my pleasure to be in South Carolina. This is the first time I've ever been here. I get to drive a little bit around with Lee today and talk to other groups, and so I'm very, very excited to be here in your home state. I'm also very honored to be here with such strong women leaders. I'm sure that you, like me, are often asked how you reached your success, how you became a leader in your community, how you got here where you are today. And I have to admit that I'm not exactly sure that I dreamed I would be in this job at this moment in history. But I can tell you that I'm fully cognizant that I stand on the shoulders of women who paved the way for me. My mother had a 5th grade education, but she insisted that her daughters have a college education. My sister always held me to a higher standard of possibilities. And my high school counselor, who made sure that I had enough money to go to college. And my dream for my daughter is to go even further, to accomplish even more, to be even more fulfilled. And I'm going to tell you about her as I wander through my speech, because she's my daily inspiration. And I don't tell you my story because it's unique. Each of us has a special woman or a family member, friend or mentor who has pushed us to take the next step, to dream the bigger dream. You and I know that many of our dreams come in different shapes and sizes and colors. They differ by history and by heritage, and certainly by age. It's different in every household, and it's different in every heart. But I do know that all of us here today share one same dream together, that today's kids and tomorrow's generation will grow up in safe communities, that they will have the same chance to succeed as every other child in their classroom, no matter what they look like, what language their family speaks in the home, or no matter how much money their parents make. I know we share this dream because I know what you fight for. I know what you fight for here in South Carolina, and I know it's not always easy to fight for these things in a bright red state. I know we share this mission and motivation because you're here today on a beautiful South Carolina Saturday, here indoors with me and with each other. And I bet for all of us, our American dream includes the values of equality, inclusiveness, and justice. There's someone I know and you know who also shares these same values, who works just as hard as you do to make them all real. The President of the United States, Barack Obama. First, I want to thank you, all of you, for helping President Obama realize his vision for a more progressive and a more prosperous country, a country in which women make a majority. But to keep America economically competitive in the 21st century, we need to make sure that women are able to realize their potential in every way, educationally, economically, and politically. That begins by ensuring we have leaders who support policies that support us. We need leaders who see behind the politics, to see the people they affect. And I've never seen any leader do that more naturally and more consistently as Barack Obama. That's why millions of women, Millions of women went to bat for him in 2008. Just like you, they made phone calls, they knocked on doors, they distributed literature, they talked to their friends, and yes, they did the honk and wave. I know many of you are campaign veterans, and believe me, you made a difference. You put the president in the White House. In 2008, more women than men registered Democratic, and more women voted. Here in South Carolina, the majority of voters are women. In fact, in battleground states across the country, President Obama won the popular vote because of the ballots cast by women. As important as campaigns are, and as gratifying as it feels to win, we know governing is where the change really happens. Do you remember the very first bill President Obama signed into law after he was inaugurated? Now you know. The Fair Pay Act, named after Lilly Ledbetter. A law that stops employers from paying men more than they would pay women for no other reason than the fact that we're women. The very first piece of legislation that he made law was a step towards closing the gender pay gap. Why? Because Barack Obama didn't view it just as a piece of legislation. It was a statement. It was a stand for equality. You know that he created the White House Council on Women and Girls so that every corner of the federal government takes into account the unique needs of women and girls as they put the president's agenda into action on issues like domestic violence, family planning, paid family leave, nutrition, childhood development, science and math education, and health care for women veterans. And of course, all of you remember that the health care fight. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't pretty. But President Obama stuck with it. And when he signed that historic law, affirming that affording to live a healthy life is the right of every American, not just the wealthy few, he took another step toward greater equality for women. I told you that I would tell you about my daughter. Her name is Graciela Catarina Gonzalez. At the age of 19, Graciela, in 2008, was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. She's a cancer survivor. Following her surgery and her treatment, we realized that Graciela had two things. She had a pre-existing condition, and she was never going to have insurance after she went off for our insurance policy. But for Barack Obama taking that stand as his very first act, my daughter, like so many other Americans, would have lived a life fighting for health care. Earlier this year, when the other side threatened to shut down the United States government over access to cancer tests, women's access to cancer tests, President Obama stood firm. He said he's willing to compromise, but not on something like that. And so we know how that story ended. The Republicans backed down, and the government stayed open. Thank you, President Obama. Thank you for making sure that Graciela Catarina Gonzalez can have health care for the rest of her life. I could go on and on. Head Start, child care, health care for low-income kids, the child tax credit. All these family priorities are the president's priorities. And even as we speak, the president is pushing Congress to pass his jobs bill, which will put more people back to work and more money in their pockets. He's asking Congress to share his vision for growing our economy and shrinking our debt. It's a vision grounded in the simple principle that everyone should play by the same rules. The Republicans in Washington and on the campaign trail might not like it, but the country does. The American people support it overwhelmingly, and it's not hard to see why. Here's what it will do in South Carolina. It will cut taxes for more than 80,000 small businesses. It will create more than 6,300 jobs, improving South Carolina's infrastructure, highways, and transit systems. And it will keep 6,400 educators from being laid off. It will connect the more than 120,000 South Carolinians who have been unemployed for a long time with jobs and job training. And it will cut taxes to put almost $1,300 in the average South Carolina's family's pocket. And what about women? The president's plan will keep more than 2.5 million unemployed women from losing their benefits and help the 2.8 million women who've been out of work 4 months get back on the job. It will cut taxes so that more than 75 million women can keep more of their paychecks, and more than 900,000 women own small businesses can hire and grow. Why? Because President Obama based this bill on the same basic values that help the American economy become the envy of the world and help build the American middle class. The idea that responsibility is rewarded, hard work pays, and everyone from Wall Street to Main Street is rewarded if they play on the same level field. It recognizes that we are at our strongest when everyone does her fair share and everyone gets a fair shake. I know when many of us step into the vote, we take our mothers, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers with us. And yes, we take our daughters. We think of them as we cast our votes, a right many of them never knew. It seems incredible that at this very moment, this sacred right is under attack. Conservative legislators in more than half the states are trying to turn back the clock on our right to vote. I just heard about a 96-year-old woman in Tennessee who was denied a voter ID because she didn't have a marriage certificate. These are the kind of tricks they're trying to play. We have to be ready. We have to do everything we can, because if we don't, we know what we will lose. Equal pay for equal work. Health care for our neediest. Paying more for medical services because we are women. And what about Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid? More than half of Medicare's beneficiaries are women. Rick Perry wanted to amend the Constitution to outlaw women's right to choose. And as governor of Texas, he cut family planning services for 280,000 women. Mitt Romney said he would cut all funding for Planned Parenthood and would oppose expanding health care for kids. That's precisely what's at stake in this election. I know you know this. I don't need to tell you. You live it every day. But we need our friends and our neighbors and our co-workers to know this too. We need to help them understand that the choice is clear. It's between going forward or backward, between recovery or regression, between success or failure. None of the progress I'm talking about would have happened without Barack Obama. But history will also record that none of it would have happened without you. And as we look forward to the fights and the challenges we have to fight, whether it's making the country's policies better match its principles, or re-electing the president who believes in that mission with all of his heart. We need you to keep fighting with us. We all want to live in and leave behind a country where we're free to dream our own version of the American dream. You all know how to organize. You all know how to lead. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. Your communities and your country need you to work even harder over the next year. In March of 2011, Jim Messina called me and asked me if I would serve as the national political director for the president's campaign. My heart stopped. I thought, oh my goodness. I said I'd like to go home and talk to my family. That night, my daughter, whom you know now, Graciela, and my husband Edmundo sat down on the couch. And we talked about all the things that this could mean for our family. It had to be a family decision. And as we were winding up our conversation, and I was thinking back and forth because it meant that I would be separated from my husband, and that would be very hard. And our daughter was going off to school. We would be in 3 parts of the country. My daughter, with the wisdom that she has, is now a 22-year-old woman, my baby. She looked at me with those beautiful brown eyes, and she said to me, Mom, this will be the most important job you ever have. She's right. It is the most important job I will ever have. It will be the most important job that you will ever have. In 2008, we elected the first African American to become the President of the United States. We changed history. We made history. In 2012, we will make our future. There is so much at stake. And I say to you, this will be the most important job you ever